T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello guys and dolls, welcome back to Honey Badger 3D Print and Paint. I'm joined by Michael, I'm joined by Carl, the fanatical Fenton, and today we are taking a look at the Blocks One Mark II. So this is not a particularly new machine from Blocks. Blocks is a Portuguese-based company. And as I say, this particular machine isn't fantastically new for them. They do, however, have something new in the works. So they have, this is their One Mark II, and they have the R21 that's in the works. I highly recommend you go and check out their website, which should be in the video description. You'll see, first of all, the One Mark II, but if you go to their actual homepage, you'll see the R21. The R21 is something a little bit special. But for right now, this is what we have. So let's get this open. So you'll see that that UPS did me a nice favor by kicking the absolute snot out of this. So so that was a nice chunk of damage. Luckily, this is packed particularly well. And there's like a fist's worth of void between where they kick the crap out of it and the actual printer. So at the moment, it doesn't look like there's any damage to the actual machine. But we will open this bad boy up and take a look.
I got one of them, Andrew. I got one of them filters delivered yesterday, Saturday. And I've got to say, since I've had it on, you cannot smell any resin at all.
I got another one today.
Yeah, I can't smell any resin at all.
So a little user guide.
For you as well.
Should always be used with the power cable supply with the print. Yep, fine, whatever. And a teeny tiny business card. Right, let's take this out. So this is pre-assembled. So this might actually be one of our rare occasions where this stream doesn't take us ages because, oh God, that's heavy. Oh no. Because that's the printer setup. Right, so as you can see here, we have a remote mounted dual drive extruder. We then have, oh, he said, immediately popping something out. There we go. Oh, well, I've lost that forever now. Oh, that was going to stop the Bowden tube from coming out. Where did that go? No, completely missing. Okay, right, well, we've all learned a lesson there. Oh, it's on the floor.
Good job it was all pre-built.
Yeah. Right, there we go. Okay, so okay, I think we're going to have to turn this on and raise the bed to be able to get the this box out because it's underneath the leveling knobs. So let's plug this in, which is interesting because the power cable must be in that box. So how are you meant to turn it on and raise the bed? I'm not turning a lead screw like some sort of peasant. Oh, it lights up.
Oh, I like the light. Oh, I like that.
Plate.
Well, for anyone who's interested, the Opus that we unboxed on Friday. I don't know if anyone's seen the pictures of James's summer house, but at the night time, it looks like the fiery pits of hell.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a manual lift because it just says auto home, and I really don't want to do that without having opened the box and looked at anything else.
What size is this printer?
So the build volume is 200 by 210 by 210. So it's not the largest. There's no two ways about that.
So it's the same size as my Creality CR200Ds.
Yeah. From the look of this, it is a true Core XY in the sense that it has an A and a B motor, and it must take a combination of A and B motors to produce a single linear rail, linear way of movement. Now, it has got linear rails. It has got linear rods on it, not linear rails. I'll turn this back on, and as you can see, it lights up. So now let's take this little box out and see what's in the little box. I'm assuming one of them must be the build plate. It's a bit of a weird size, 210 by 200.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of an odd one.
I tell you what,
So first off,
like the Goofo.
that's a European plug. So go straight in the bin. This is this is 3D printed. This is the spool holder, which goes on the side. Yeah. We've got some clips. We've got a spatula that I want to be very clear doesn't have any gold on it, so I hate it. If it's not got gold on your spatula, what are you even doing?
I know. I had a look at that spatula on Saturday, and it is really special.
It's a nice spatula. It's the best spatula I've ever had.
Is that one you're keeping, James?
I challenge it's not worth £7, but it really depends how much you love spatulas.
Close to.
Looks like an Ultimaker S3. So it does, so it looks more like the original Ultimakers did. Looks more to me like Ultimaker S1. That sort of bolts on the outside, linear rods. You know, it's got that kind of feel to me. So, piece of glass.
Yeah, your image has gone really crappy.
My image has gone really crappy.
Yeah, you keep freezing, and it's like really bad image quality.
James is saying, Jasmine says James's office at night looks like the red light district.
Oh, it does. It looks like a sex club.
I mean, you're not far off. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I literally didn't do anything, so. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye on it.
That's because his broadband is basically a hamster in a wheel.
Yeah, pretty much. I've actually got brilliant broadband. The problem is in my garage, I don't have a great connection. So, we're placing bulldog clips on the sides.
Is the casing metal or is it plastic?
Wood, I would say. Or like, yeah, maybe it's plastic.
Like an acrylic.
I'd say it's probably plastic, like a thick acrylic, maybe. All right, let's pop all those on there. There we go. It does give you... Oh, and I've immediately ripped it. It does give you an adjustment sheet of paper with a bullseye on it.
Awesome.
So we should just
That's
be able
because that end
to
of the
go...
paper is just the right thickness. The other end isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. I'd be lying if I said it was quiet.
It's quite a simple display, isn't it?
It is quite simple, yeah. There we go. So it's very much a Marlin display. So it's very much. Yeah, it's all right, Paul. It's all right. It's found the clip. It's fine. So Right. So, I mean, there's literally nothing on there regarding instructions. So I assume there is some
Well, it's
sort of
already
instruction
pre-built.
manual. Well, yeah, but like the leveling process and stuff, like, is there a sequence of events or do you just go for it? Like, what do you do? So let's find out.
Do they use their own slicer?
Oh, God, please tell me they don't use their own slicer. No. And it comes with a Cura profile. In fact, I think there is actually a... we're just waiting for it to ping off. I haven't seen this style too much since the Enders came out, but keeps it simple. Yeah, so it reminds me of like original MakerBots and things like that, like the original MakerBot style. Again, I mean the original Ultimaker style. Even actually, one of the early Crucias was like was a wooden one, wasn't it? But it was a wooden A-frame rather than a yeah. So it reminds me a little bit of that. Let me just have a look at Cura. So there is a stock profile in Cura. So I think we're going to use that.
It's nice and easy then.
And then let's just take a look on the SD card. So they do include a hex file for their firmware, but they do not include the source code. It's just the loader and the firmware. There's a warranty, and then there is a user guide. Yeah, English first, right. Cable guides, yeah. Interestingly, the extruder illustration is not of this extruder. it's of a different extruder. And then, yeah, right, fine. Yeah, it's just showing you how the whole thing, right. Configuration and calibration. Audio is firmware installed, maybe undergoing update. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, fine. Yeah, it's already in Cura. That's the start G code in there. Right, so mandatory to follow this process in the same order. So you go to control. Absolutely none of those. Oh, it's one called plate and then calibrate probes. Follow the on-screen instructions as shown.
Yeah, I'm here as well, Anne.
Place calibration piece as shown in the manual and press the button to continue. I don't know what you mean. The calibration piece is this piece right here. And it goes apparently back here. Does that imply that the glass isn't meant to be on then? Hold on. Okay. Right, yeah, make sure the glass is on. And then press the button to continue. Oh, it's got two probes. Right, so that's calibrated the probe. Oh, I see. So it's right, yeah. So that was calibrating the probe. And then you take away the calibration piece and that's going to get lost. Let's put that in there. I'm still going to do that. Right, so then you go to plate and you go to level plate. heats the bed up. So I can already tell you this hasn't got silent stepper drivers. I can tell you that for a start. But hi, Carl. Is that you on the stream? Oh, Carl's the famous one now, is he?
And and to be honest, I come on Honey Badger streams quite often. Just
that is true. Actually, you do come on our streams quite a lot.
Not for the last probably about 2 months. Make us up. Hello.
We've not really been doing a lot for the last couple of months, not live stream wise. To be fair, we've not really had that many machines that have come out that have warranted us going live.
Matt German says he is stuck in traffic and he will be on soon.
Okay. So for those who don't know Matt German, he's the famous one. So he does a lot of lithophanes.
He's coming on because he's the better looking one.
Yes, he's the face.
Yeah, the eye candy of the 3D printing community.
So I can tell you already, I'm going to have to change the stepper drivers on this.
Or just give it a
like I can't live this way.
Can Makers Hub have a view of front of the unit?
Yeah. There you go.
And he said, and I've turned the caps off so you can see.
Oh, look at that. It's a very nice looking machine. It is very nice looking. Just right, turn 97 degrees and press the button. I beg your pardon. What do you mean?
Do you mean you've got to turn the bed knob 97 degrees?
Follow the so it must be the one that it's just done. Turn it 97
Why are you going to turn it 97 degrees?
Right, well, I've turned it probably 95 degrees, so try that. I went the wrong way. 90. Again. That was obviously good enough.
Makers Hub, we think it's like a plastic, maybe like an acrylic sort of material on the outside.
Turn it 78 degrees. I mean, I'm not lying. It's an ingenious way of probing, but at the same time, like...
They've not really give you the measurements on the dials for you to do that accurately.
Well, so what it's doing, it's actually a very interesting way of probing. So, so if I can... Okay, so how am I going to... have I got a pen? Probably not. How have I not got a pen? No. Okay, fine. I'll use this as an illustration. So, right. The nozzle is in the middle, obviously. There are two physical end stops, left and right. The nozzle travels off the bed and the probes go down and physically trigger when they touch the bed. So what this is doing is you use your calibration block so that it knows exactly where the end stops are, because this is a known value. So this is, you know, however thick this is, 4 mil or whatever, and then it knows that those probes are 4 mil away from the nozzle. So that gives it its Z, absolute zero. The way it then probes is it goes to each corner, moves the nozzle off of the... So if this is the bed, it moves the nozzle off of the bed and the nozzle goes past the bed, and the physical end stops either side trigger when they hit the bed. And then it knows, theoretically, the distance between the physical end stop and the nozzle at all times. So that's the calculation that it's doing. But it's not using a probe. It's using the same end stops that you would have on X and Y. just without the lever arms on.
It's an interesting
So
concept.
it says you should do this process twice. Level plate, yeah.
So it's a bit like when you do the bed leveling on Occuprint, where you get the bed visualization.
Similar to, yeah. It's not creating a mesh though.
No.
It's telling you how you need to physically level the bed.
Because that's what it does.
Screw, 90 degrees this way to actually give you a level bed rather than creating a mesh. Now, I've said before, the reason why places like Rat Rig or the Railcore 2s or the Vorons work so well is because they don't do a mesh to then then adapt the software. They physically level the bed or level the gantry, and as a result, and people are going to get annoyed when I use this word, but you have a trammed x-axis, a trammed y-axis, and the bed is parallel to whatever it's using. So it physically corrects the hardware rather than making up for it in software. So that's run a second time, and that's now good. So we've now got main screen, plate, level plate. Yep, fine, done that. So now we do nozzle adjustment. In the plate, if the nozzle appears to have a lot of residue that can affect the distance, please let me know. Right, okay, that's fine. So we haven't got that. So we now go to plate, nozzle adjustment. Is the nozzle clean? Yes. So one would assume this is where our piece of paper comes in, because now it's going to set what it thinks the Z offset should be after it's gone round and probed the bed. Right, so the Z offset is currently 12, which is quite high.
It's a bright light, isn't it, in there?
It is a bright light, yeah. I don't know, but it seems like it's user non-error first layer. Well, in theory, yeah. My camera's messing up again.
It was.
Oh, okay. Is it all right now?
Yeah, the 50p run out of your meter.
Oh, right, okay. So now we place this underneath and we... Go. Keep going.
Oh, before we come on, James was asking me about the Ender 7, and I was explaining to him what I've done now to be able to make sure the first layers go down well. So I've actually got a desk, and under there is my Ender 7. I've put a mirror at an angle so I can actually look into the mirror and a periscope, so I can actually see the first few layers go down. Which is, it's worked for the last week I've done it.
Okay, we have set the Z offset. I have not missed that noise on 3D printers. I can honestly say that. So it's 0.01 movements. You can wind the nozzle pretty quickly, but it's 0.01 movements. I'm just going to turn this for a second so that I can install the filament that I definitely have. There we go. So I'm going to use some eSun PLA Plus. Anybody who wants some eSun PLA Plus, there's a link to 3D Filament in the video description. It is a great way to support a UK business. It's also a great way to support the channel as we get a little bit of commission on filament that you buy. They are also some of the nicest people we've ever met. Well, one of them is. You can guess which one. But that's really up to you. Right, so pop that on the side. So interestingly, you get no tools with this. So there's no Allen keys, there's no... You get... I don't even think you actually get a pair of tweezers, but you don't even get the normal tin snips. So you get the world's shortest USB cable, which is standard at this point, but disappointing. You get a pair of tweezers and you get your spatula, but no clippers with this one. So the only reason why I mention that is I feel like this spool holder needs doing up a little bit. I feel like it's a little loose on the side, which means I now have to go into my treasure trove of Allen keys and find one that fits, which is an incredibly annoying activity. Not that one. It's going to be the one size of Allen key that I don't have, isn't it? Pretty much sums up my life. Because that is nowhere near. There we go. That's better. Don't want that falling off. So I don't see how this could have a filament sensor in it. So I don't believe it does. Interestingly, I now need a pair of clippers. So I'll use the ones I got with my Creality. Put that. That goes in. Take that off for a minute. You're sponsored by Huel, Jasmine asked. So, no, I went through a phase a little while ago where I was under the impression that if I moved about very quickly, I would lose some weight. And Huel was the poison of choice of my personal trainer at the time. And I want to be clear, it tastes like licking an orangutan's sweaty arse crack. It is experiences that I've ever put some weird stuff in my mouth. It has an insanely unpleasant texture. Enjoy that. But what I will say is they make absolutely fantastic t-shirts. So I got this free with some of the poison that they sent me. And I have worn it as an element of protest, so that every time someone says to me, "Oh, do you drink Huel?" I can say absolutely not. But they do make good t-shirts, so buy one of those. There we go. That goes into the tool here. So it looks to me like the tool head is partially 3D printed as well. I will point out it is very well 3D printed, if it is. But, I mean, bearing in mind that most of a Prusa is 3D printed, I don't necessarily think that's something I'm going to hold against them. But just interesting. So the screen is a little small on this, if I'm honest. But the overall aesthetic of the machine is actually quite nice. Like, good advert as she's thinking about getting some. Absolutely do not get some, Jasmine. Buy a Himalayan salt lamp and sit and lick that, because I can guarantee you it will taste better than the rancid, gelatinous, lumpy poison that I was forced to put in my body at 4 a.m., which is a horrendous time to put anything in your body, let alone something that tastes as bad as that. It was objectively terrible. I hated it. It was bad. Doesn't have anything to do with this printer, I'll point out, but I'm angry about it now, and it's starting to get on my nerves.
But how long did you put that rancid thing into you?
How long did I put that rancid thing in my mouth? That's a strange question to ask, Carl, but I'm glad you did. So I think I was taking it for 6.5 minutes at most before I think I spat it out as soon as I drank it. I said, this doesn't taste good. And he then said, he made a very bold claim, and he said, oh, it tastes better with milk, which was not true. So what it was the milk, for some reason, I don't know if it was the way that I was shaking it or what, but the milk got warm. And I don't know if you've ever drunk warm milk with lumpy bits of gritty, awful tasting sand that somebody somewhere thought that they described the flavour of strawberry to a person. And they went, yeah, this is pretty much what strawberries taste like. So you take it and then, it was terrible. It was absolutely awful. Worse than my wife's cooking, and people have died from that. So the long story short is don't buy that. It's very, very horrible tasting. And I found out afterwards, there's not even that much protein in it. So it's pointless at doing the one awful thing that it was supposed to be doing anyway. It's not even that good for you.
Did you leave
but
the
guy
review?
he was like, oh yeah, there's loads of protein in it. And you look it up and there's less protein in it than there is in like a McDonald's cheeseburger. So just eat that. I got very angry when I was. I'm just setting up the slicer at the moment, just checking the quality and the speed and things like that. Right, so it's going at 50 millimeters a second. Part cooling's enabled. No support. Skirt on there. Right. Okay. So let's slice it. Save that to the SD cards. Pop that in there. Print from SD. Calibration cube. Bed heating. Sweet. She'll stick to a McDonald's then. How much is this printer? So I absolutely agree with sticking to McDonald's. It's much tastier, and you can really taste the people who've been completely exploited in the entire process. It's delicious. It doesn't look very solid. That's my table. Unfortunately, my table isn't level. I built it with my own two clever craftsman's hands, and that was not a good idea. It was. So the Mark I is €799.
Wow.
Which, there we go. Hello, Matthew.
Sorry, I'm late. I just got my suit for the wedding.
You just got your suit for the wedding?
Yes.
I'm just wearing this T-shirt. And then when anyone says, why are you wearing that T-shirt? I'll say, I'll tell you why, because Huel tastes like garbage and people need to know.
What did I miss? That's a question.
What did you miss? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just the 3.5 minute health kick that I went on back 2 years ago. When I convinced myself that one day I'd do like, do you remember that sandwich guy who turned out to be a paedophile, where he like stood next to his old trousers and he was like, look how thin I am now. And it turns out he got thin from molesting children. So that wasn't ideal. I wasn't going to take his, I think his name was Joe, and he was from, he was Subway. That was it. It was Subway. Was it Subway, Joe?
Yeah, Subway.
Yeah, the guy from the Subway advert. So that my idea was to buy a large T-shirt, and then when I lost loads of weight, because I occasionally fantasize about the weight that I haven't lost yet, and how I'll explain it to people, and people will just be like, "How did you lose all the weight, James?" I'm like, "Oh, you just got to really apply yourself. It's a lifestyle, not just that. It's really a way of life." And I haven't lost the weight. So,
instead, he just grew into the T-shirt.
So I just grew into the T-shirt, and now it's just a way for me to explain how awful Huel is. So this is quite stable, to be fair. So JD Vision $900. So it is. So actually, it's a little bit more than $900. Because if it's €799 including VAT, that's about $1,000. About $1,000. Yeah, this is the One Mark II. The one that really matters that's from this company isn't this one. So they have a new machine coming out called the R21. The R21 has a really nice touchscreen with built-in Octoprint plugins. It's a larger build volume. It's a direct drive extruder. It has it has a bed leveling probe. It has a removable PEI sheet, like a magnetic PEI sheet. It's really, really nice. That's not this one, but just so we know, there is one out there that's really nice. This is still a very nice machine, But the other one is like
nice.
1,200 euros, I think, which is, I mean, 1,200 euros. You're into Boron territory at that point. So I would expect that new one to absolutely smash it out of the park.
How you been, Carl?
I'm gonna have to change those.
I'm all right,
I'm
mate.
gonna
Yourself?
have to change those.
Good, yeah.
Not long.
So what have you got on at the moment then, Matt?
I'm making a lithophane right now, and I was streaming while I was gone. With a new server on Maker Deck. Sorry, Maker Deck. You ever heard of it? That's been for 2 days. It's been up running, or 3 days now. So I've been streaming on there with Chris Perillo and a few other people.
So what? It's just you've just literally been streaming what lithos you've been doing?
Yeah, right now in the corner, as you can see here.
There's about 10 people on there at the moment, so he just gets
Really?
about So if you want to join, you can, and they got a little system set up so when your print finishes, they can remove you and put someone else on that's waiting, and rotate it a bit.
That's cool.
So I was just looking at the Blocks website, and they have one for 250 euros.
They have one
Which
for
is-
yes. Is that
Which
the
is
zero?
12 by 14 by 12, yes.
Yeah, super small. Yeah.
It looks like a handbag.
It does look a bit like a handbag, yes.
Like an IKEA handbag or something you go and get for my kids. But lactables in.
See, they've got the Pro S30, which is 310 by 310 by 310.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. £2,000 though, or 2,000 euros.
Yeah, that one's 2,000 euros, and it's still a remote. I mean, it's auto bed leveling, but it's still a remotely mounted dual drive. Whereas if you look on their homepage, it gives you the R21 on the front page, and the R21 looks really nice. So
they like using micron, don't they, as a description?
well, I mean, it's a measurement, so yeah, I suppose. They do seem fairly obsessed with saying. Scroll down here.
Oh yeah, the R20. Oh, that looks nice actually.
Yeah, the R21's nice. So if you look at the extruder on the R21, it's got a lot going for it. That so it's a direct drive. You can change the print cores like you can on an Ultimaker. Interchangeable hot ends that let you. It's got the PEI sheet that's flexible, so you can take that off. It's all aluminium. There's the LCD that's on there gives you it's custom UI, but that'll give you the previews of your prints. It's a 210 by 300 by 250 build volume. It's all linear rails. You can use a USB Type A. There's a filament flow and a filament runout sensor, so it doesn't just detect when you're out of filament. It also detects when your filament is jammed, and they're two separate sensors. So that's really good. It's a very short throw dual drive, direct drive, which I really like.
Nice.
The screen's nice.
And, the screen's nice, and it comes with Wi-Fi, with Octoprint Blocks plugins, and over-the-air updates.
Oh, that's good.
So, that's pretty good. That just isn't the machine we've got.
It'd be nice if you could have different colours.
The like button isn't working. I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, I had some trouble too sharing your post a couple of days ago when you posted for the show. And I just went over to YouTube and got it from there. But all your posts, what you posted on Facebook, I couldn't share.
Which
Don't know
group
why.
was it in?
Under the hot end and under your name too.
It's weird.
I couldn't
Let's have
share
a
it.
little screen. So James is asking, when are we getting one of the R21s? Well, I think it really depends on how this video goes. So I will say that has immediately started. I mean, fair play. This is a V6 hot end that's in here. I can see that through a little hole at the side. And this is a Core XY. And actually, the X and Y really isn't that loud. It only seems to be the Z that has a fair chunk of noise to it. So it could actually be that it is TMC drivers on X and Y, but it's not TMC on the Z. Feels like a bit of a weird combination to do, but we'll see. I will once this block is printed, I will flip it over and we'll have a little look and see if we can see any of the internals of it. I'd be interested to see whether or not it's got baked on drivers.
So
and
the
whether it's custom built.
the R21 can go up to 270 to 320 degrees on the hot end.
Yes,
Wow.
because it has interchangeable hot ends. So you
Yeah,
can change the hot ends to print different nozzle sizes, but then you can also change the hot ends, and it's with a thumb screw that you can change them. You can change those hot ends with a thumb screw to also change out to a high temp one. Reminds me a little bit of the Gufu Mido that we had, except that was a bit of a sod to change the print cores for.
And it says 2 minutes to maximum temperature. That's quick.
Pretty quick. I mean, 24 volt. I mean, well, 24 volt max. Yeah. If it's 2 minutes, if the 2 minutes is the 370, I'd be impressed. If the 2 minutes is the 270, I'd say that's actually quite a long time. So I think it depends on which one it's talking about. So we'll see. I mean, this is doing. I mean, I'm not being funny. This is actually doing a really nice job on this cube.
Quick question for if anyone on this stream knows. I've printed out the Boba Fett armor.
Yes.
Just finishing the helmet now. Well, in another day or so. Does anybody know what colour rattle cans for Boba Fett that you can get in this country?
Not me.
It's trying to find the official colours. You can go online and find the Pantone colours. Pantone colours, whatever they are. But converting Pantone colours to rattle can colours, I literally don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do it. I understand you can go and get your own rattle cans made up with those Pantone colours, I guess. But I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would convert them. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. But answers on a postcard if anyone knows. So yeah, so once we've this is doing a really nice job. I can only see one side at the moment, but that's nice. I like this. Very, very nice. It's what it's done so far. What I will say is they've clearly tested this properly because I put grey in this and the bottom of this calibration cube is yellow. So I'm sure B&Q will mix paint for you. Yeah, but they don't mix rattle cans, do they?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I don't know.
They'd mix a vat of emulsion for him, but that'd be a bit much. Although you've got that spray gun now.
Yeah. Yeah, but it won't be the right finish.
The spray gun will do it?
Won't be the right finish.
If you watered it down? I bet they do. I bet if you bought a water-based...
little sample ones.
Yeah. I would bet if you bought a water-based paint, the original colours are all old Ford automotive paints and some Rover Metro colours. It's filmed at Elstree Studios. But now that is interesting. So that implies that if you took the Pantone colours and you looked on Halfords,
yeah,
I wonder, and you literally looked under Ford paints.
What Crane Decorating Centre do? Well, there's one of them just near me.
What, that mixed spray paints? Is that cheap? I don't know. I don't know if that's cheap or expensive. I don't know. I'll definitely say there's no way these are TMC drivers. Like, I don't know if you guys can actually hear it from there. If I don't know why I'm leaning. I can just take the microphone off. I'm not a weird, be a weirdo about it, but like, I don't know if you can you hear that? Like,
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear it.
so like, I've not missed that noise from 3D printing. I know I used to work at the Elstree Studios, fair play. So yeah, I mean, so you could go to Crown, take the Pantone numbers and give them those, and get them to make up the cans, or
Well, I pass that place about 5 times a week.
worth a shot. You've got the Pantone colours, so
Yeah.
I'm 99% sure I'm not saying that right as well. So that's going to come up in the comments at some point.
Pantone.
What did I say?
Panettone. That's like an Italian cake for Christmas.
And I can say Obi-Wan, the original, was a strong man, as the original lightsabers weighed a ton. Well, I assume the original ones were machined aluminium, weren't they?
Probably not. No.
I would have assumed that they literally just took an aluminium cylinder and they just machined one on a lathe. I'd have thought that's the easiest way to make one. It's not actually got everything inside of it, surely.
It's got to have a lightsaber.
Whereas the new ones would have done. Because the new ones, maybe they use less special effects or something. But on the originals, do you not think? I don't know.
I know.
Not sure if it's all Crown decorators sent us. But if you struggle, I'll go into the one here and get them down and send to you. Oh, there we go. So if that Crown Centre doesn't do it, then James will get them sorted for us. Oh, this has lifted off the bed. So I don't think I've done that first layer perfectly, but we'll see what. Yeah, no, that lifted. Okay, fine. Let's stop that.
Oh.
And that's a shame because that was actually. So if I come over here and I go, no. If I go over here, you should be able to see that actually that was printing really nicely there. Look at that. And even the first layer wasn't terrible. I might be inclined to actually stick some 3D lac on it rather than I do not have in here. So before we do that, let's turn this off, flip it over. That just falls right off. And let's breaking it already. Machined billets, but yeah, that's what I thought. So, okay, so I don't know if anyone can see, but we've got the power supply is open here, and then inside of this we have all of our electronics. So let's see if I have a screwdriver. I do. Because for the first time ever, I think I'm going to be able to disassemble a 3D printer with a Phillips head, which is a lovely novelty for everybody. All right. Take that off.
I don't know why they have to use always those hex keys. Every machine, what I know.
Yeah. All the ones I know use hex keys as well.
Because they're so hard to find the screws for those hex keys, you know? And I'm looking for...
Cover comes off. And we have an MKS Gen 1.4, not even a Gen L. So we've got 2 A-series drivers and what looks like a DRV driver. Is that a DRV? Can't be. Looks like Okay. Who's got echo?
Not me.
So that
What screws are you
means that
struggling
we've
to get,
got.
Matt?
Pardon me?
What screws are you struggling to get? You said the hex ones.
M1 20 mil.
Okay. Well,
So
I've
the TMC 2100.
got some M. I've only got M2,
No, I'm
M3
looking
and
for
M4.
M1 and
I've
M2.
got the M1s.
MKS
What? So
Gen
M1
1.0.
20 mil.
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Okay.
very thin.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
almost
have a look.
impossible to
There's
find.
a place online.
1977.
There's
H20.
a place online, Matt, that we've ordered loads of screws from before. They do every size and they send them to you all in sealed packets. And you buy however many you want.
Yeah, I normally find them on eBay. Things like that.
Yeah, they send it to them like this.
All right.
It's called.
Send me a link in the private chat and copy it.
I would do if I knew who they were from. ACCU, ACCU.
Or just take a picture and send it over to me in private message.
Okay, so.
Huh?
I'm telling you the words now. All it's got on it is ACCU, ACCU.
And it's recorded as well, Matt, so you can go back.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. Duh.
Right, so when it comes to drivers, we have TMC 2100s on X and Y, but then A series on Z and E, which is a little strange because I would have expected you to them to have put 2100s on either everything or nothing. And it's weird to have 2100s but still have A series on the others. Like that seems like an odd choice to me, whoever made that decision. But an MKS Gen L board means that at the very least, if you wanted to, you can make some changes. An MKS Gen L board is at least is if you wish to change those drivers on the Z around, you could. Z and E needs heavier drivers. Yeah, so Z and E do need heavier drivers, but A series drivers feels unnecessary, doesn't it? Like surely you would, if you needed heavier drivers, then just putting 2208s on them would be fine. And I mean, 2208s on Z for sure. You could get away with A series drivers on E, but like not putting a TMC on a Z, especially when you've got a bed that is leveling so much to a I just feel like A series drivers on E's fine, but A series drivers on Z, yeah, I'm not really a massive fan of. Talk amongst yourselves, and I shall go and grab some. 3D lac. How much of the car have you stripped back, Mike?
Oh, about half of it. Yesterday I spent all day on tramadol, so I didn't do anything.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
But I've started a Loki and Sylvie diorama.
All right, nice.
I'm like halfway through the base, which is like a clock.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's got a big disc on it that they stand on, then some rocks, and then a big what's the time agency from that program? The TVA? Something like that. It's got a big clock with their logo on it.
How many
Sylvie's
pieces have you got to print?
Sylvie's done.
Oh, wow. Nice. Wow.
So that was all in resin. And I started Loki about half an hour ago, so he seems to be quite a fair bit bigger, so I should imagine that's going to take the best part of a week to do, but I've easily got another week on this base.
I've been
So
working
base
on
FDM.
Base is all FDM, yeah. I've got touch wood, I appear to successfully be printing a helmet, which I've never done before.
Yeah,
I've tried
I'm
many
not-
times, never
not brave enough
successfully
yet.
printed a helmet. Well, I sort of need the helmet to go with my Boba Fett armor.
James is asking, are you going to wear it at the show?
No,
Please
James is.
wear it.
James is.
I'm sorry.
Salute to him.
Well,
Salute
we can involve me in that part of the conversation.
I hopefully made it
I'm
a bit
wearing
too
my
small
Hill
for me.
shirt.
I made it
You
a
have
bit too
your hell
small for me,
shirt on.
and it will fit in perfect.
I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to confidently say there's absolutely no. What do you spray? So I am putting 3D lac on it. I used to use hairspray, but if I spray hairspray in my office, does tend to send me into a delirious rage for 10-15 minutes. So in an attempt to combat that, I'm using 3D lac instead. It's just as
I don't know-
effective.
I don't know, James, why I've always struggled to print a helmet. I've tried probably 5 times, and every time they just keep failing. But I am like 60% of the way through this now, and it's looking perfect. So touch wood, this is going to be my first success.
Be an interesting move if it is.
Or there'll be tears in 2 days.
Who knows?
Well-
It'll probably be tears anyway.
Yeah.
He spent a week and a half trying to print the Gimli helmet, and after he finally managed, after like 9 fails, it didn't even fit.
It was massive. It was like the helmet out of Spaceballs.
Yeah. Joe's just asking for support, so I'm assuming you use tree supports.
Yeah, tree supports, and I print it upside down as well.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
an interesting idea.
Well, then you don't have all the supports inside the helmet.
Right.
Because,
No one
But
sees
would you
now
not
inside.
you have
have-
all the supports on the outside where you've got to finish it.
No,
Yeah.
because I'm going to use the Repliflow on it.
Ah,
All right. Well, it's not magic. Like it's
Okay, well,
like it's good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's really good stuff, but it's not
Started
voodoo in a
one.
bottle.
no, I started one that failed, and luckily it was actually way too small anyway.
Right.
But like, it's not bad.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Well, we'll see.
that's an interesting idea, though, doing it that way.
yeah, I've done one of
Twins
those
saying
before
he
this
uses
way.
nothing on the bed. So at the moment, Twensy, I'm printing on glass, and I'm not printing on carborundum glass either. This is just regular borosilicate glass. So I'm just putting some 3D lac on just to give it a little bit more. I would prefer and get a perfect first layer to squish down the front first layer and then end up with elephant's foot.
You've frozen
So-
again, James.
The other reason I'm doing it upside down, James, is because the bottom of this helmet has got no flat spots on it that sit flat on the bed.
Right. Okay.
So if I'd have printed it the right way up, most of the bottom of the helmet would have all been supported, and then the whole of the inside of the helmet would have been supported.
Yeah,
And
it
I've
makes
seen
sense,
most
then.
people who have printed the Mandalorian helmets and stuff like that have all done them upside down.
So, Twenty, this printer is €799. So the thing that this thing is competing with right now, realistically, is the Prusa Mark III, and that's everybody knows that if you own a Prusa, your penis enters a room 20 seconds before you do. Everybody knows that about Prusa owners, right?
What if you have more than one?
That is established.
Hey, I'm a
medical
Prusa
fact.
owner.
That's not true.
Not
You own a
really.
Prusa
That's
Mini,
not true,
and that
Matt.
is a joke.
That's not true.
All right.
So what happens if you own more than one Prusa?
Well, honestly, you've just got to carry it around in a wheelbarrow. Like, there's nothing else you can do. It becomes a problem.
Or
once you've got-
just use it as a space hopper.
Yeah.
Ah,
James actually has 60, which is why he's in not medical journals.
Yeah.
Because he has to
Get around very
employ
much.
several people who just carry it around for him all day.
They
It's a
actually
nightmare.
described him as medically amazing.
Yeah. He's made several doctors quit their job. So I'm not dealing with it anymore. I've had enough.
Several
I
nurses
deal
have
with the long
fainted.
hours in the NHS and the underpaid, but I'm not dealing with that size of wang.
Yeah, a lot of nurses fainted.
that's not why I spent 5 years in medical school learning about all the different parts of the body to have to deal with this. That's unacceptable. So anyway, so as I say, this printer is directly competing with a Prusa. Now, it does say on the website this will print ABS, but there's no top hood and there's no front door. So providing that you either cover those, which I wouldn't advise, or you're in an incredibly, if you're printing in a sauna, maybe, I think you'd probably be fine.
It's from Portugal. It's a little bit warmer.
Yeah,
than
I
the
mean,
UK.
very true. He's from Portugal, so you can probably go outside and audibly crackle.
Yeah.
So, so that maybe it's not an issue there. But cold drafts occasionally happen in the UK.
Yep, quite a bit often, I
Just said,
think.
why do you hate Prusas? I don't know if we've got that kind of time. I don't.
I think it's a
specifically
relationship
hate
with the
Prusas.
Prusa and the Prusa.
I should be
left them or
clear.
something.
I don't specifically hate Prusas. I hate anybody who is a fanboy. Anyway, I hate printing ABS. It's high maintenance when it's here in the UK. So to be fair, yeah, it is. If you had the right machine, printing ABS is actually contextually very easy. But I don't think you should have machines that you switch materials out on all the time. To me, if you want to print multiple materials, then you have a machine set up for PLA, a machine set up for PETG, and a machine set up for ABS and whatever you else might be printing. ABS is a really good material. It's fantastic at giving you all sorts of horrible diseases if you don't vent the room. But it's strong. It's UV resistant. It's heat resistant.
Easier to sand.
Well easier to sand. It's a good material. I personally think that PETG is probably the right sort of midway for most people. But yeah, it is a pain in the ass. Thank you, James. I've been telling people that. But back to the Prusa thing. I don't specifically hate Prusas. I don't. They are actually really good machines. What I dislike is I dislike anybody who is a fanboy to the exclusion of everything else. So I don't like it when people say, "Oh, I'm an Apple boy, and I have an iPhone, and I'll only ever have an iPhone because iPhones are the best," or where they have an Android phone and they say, "Oh, Androids are the best," or they say, I can't get.
It's not your cup of
Android.
tea. Let's say it this way.
Pardon?
It's not your cup of tea. The Prusa.
Yeah, but that's completely fine.
Raymond, it's 200 by 210 by 210. This build.
Yes,
Size.
sorry. Yes, it is. Yeah.
You can get back
let's
on
say-
your rant now.
And it's the same for anybody who's a fanboy about Vorons, because there are people who are effervescent whenever you try to say, "Oh, well, a Voron isn't the end of 3D printing. This isn't the promised land. It's another machine that requires a bit of work and requires it. But there are fanboys who will tell you that anybody who doesn't like their Vorons, it's their fault. And there'll be people who will tell you that anybody who doesn't like a rat rig has just never used one. Or there's plenty of people who'll say, if you don't like Ender 3s, it's only because you're bad at 3D printing.
What's with
And
G-Tech?
it's that blinking opinion.
No one talks about G-Tech, Matt.
Just
No
you,
one
Matt.
talks about G-Tech. only when the fireman comes along afterwards and has to stand in front of the press and goes, "We found exactly what started the fire," and then he has to hold up the G-Tech and everyone goes, "I knew it," and then they just all stamp off, really angry.
Yeah.
But when the fire investigators always come back and they're like, "We found the match that set this off," and they always go, "We found the G-Tech that burned down this apartment of flats that all the orphans lived in." Because it's only those ones that the G-Tech's burned down.
Blue Kingdom says
Actually
he
designed for
loves using his TiVo Tornado.
Yeah, and again, right? So we've featured the TiVo up, the Hydra. it's less than ideal.
It's just that it's third bed.
Yeah.
Oh, have you done it
Yeah,
now?
it's on his third bed now.
Well,
Which
what
is
happened
one
to
would
the other
challenge
two?
3 too many.
Like it
If it
is
has
that.
another bed, Matt, you'll be getting it.
It is that's printing the helmet. And it is printing lovely. Unfortunately, it won't lovely
I
continuously.
don't want a T-bow. I give you money
You want a
to give
T-bow
me
up?
not a T-bow.
They swap you for the
You've
Homer.
got to understand, Matthew, they've completely reinvented themselves, right? Before, they didn't have the up in their name. That wasn't in their name before. And now
You've
they've
got the
completely
TiVo,
changed
not
and
the
there's nothing
TiVo
in
up.
their name. Now it's TiVo up. Before it
Up.
was just TiVo.
Up equals quality.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
they
Up
didn't tell
equals quality.
people.
Those
Yeah,
two letters
everything was garbage.
make a difference.
But now they've put the up in it. Mwah, absolute top shelf.
Bullshit.
Yeah, a little bit. I like the FL Suns Ender 6.
Yeah, but
What?
Ray, you've put clipper on your Ender 6 to get it to be functional. Because there seems to be really big issues with the Ender 6, not just by, like a couple of people. It seems to be an evolution.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to.
I'm sure Creality take great solace in the fact that they didn't make this, so it's not their fault. They got someone else to design it. But yeah,
because Zachary from Holland 3D.
Yes, yeah.
He's clipperized his Ender 6 because he just couldn't get it to work with Marlon. Just couldn't get it to work at all. So he put clipper on it, and it's a different machine.
See, it's interesting because fundamentally, I would say the only thing that stops something from truly working properly should be mechanical, right? If the purpose of a car is to move, then what would stop it from moving is a mechanical thing from stopping that do that. And how many eggs do you have to eat a day? Me?
We talking about chocolate eggs.
I see. That's a head joke. Is it?
I don't
No,
know.
what he's saying is how many eggs does James have to eat a day to look like that?
Me? Oh, wait, is that a Gaston joke? Is it? It might. Right, I want to be clear. Mike's fatter than I am, and Matt is.
I'm fat.
I'm the second thinnest on this stream. What's this about?
Yeah, but I'm not pretending I drink protein
No.
shakes.
I'm the skinniest.
I drank one protein shake, and I was very clear I didn't like it.
I'm the slimmest one on here, and I can eat a bag of them a day, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
See how slim I am?
See how slim you are. Oh, you're breathing in.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah,
You've got one of them
exactly.
pills on.
That was the most German laugh
Yeah,
ever.
as I say, so if you say a machine is bad, to me, that's got to mean there's something mechanically wrong with it, right? That for example, on the Ender 5, they've got that cantilevered bed. Terrible idea. It should be supported on both sides. Mechanical failing. Bad machine. Bad Creality. Bad. But if the only thing you have to change is the software, then all it really feels like is that something was configured incorrectly because nothing mechanically has changed. You might have settings or whatever. In a slightly different way. But G-code's G-code. You slice something in Cura, it doesn't just because it's Clipper versus how
You're freezing again.
it's all to do with how the firmware's set up.
But like Raymond's put there, he's put big tree tech stuff on his Ender 6. He's got is it the H2? I think he's got on there, and he's got the board on it as well.
H2 on it.
What board did you put on it, Ray? Because like a board, obviously Big Tree Tech will make, whether the Creality boards just couldn't cope. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, really.
So to be fair, the reason why Big Tree Tech made the Octo board or the Octopus board was because the Voron uses 4 stepper motors on the Z.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to address those, and each one of those has to be able to move independently of the other because the gantry has quad gantry leveling, which is easily the best body popping I've ever done. So I'm glad that's on the live stream. But the difference is so I remember when Clipper first came out, and it was supposed to be an upgrade to help you print faster when Creality had their original boards, because the original Creality boards were only, I think, 8-bit or 16-bit, and they literally couldn't handle. They couldn't read, write, and instruct the G code quick enough to actually move the tool head at the speed they needed to. So what Clipper did is it offloaded all the effort and to the Pi. The Pi did all the all the work, and then it just gently and slowly feeds through to the board. But now that Creality boards are 32-bit,
Well,
I don't really think
that's not true actually, because their new Ender 3 S1s are 16-bit.
Really.
Yeah, so you know the Ender 2 Pro that
Yeah.
has a 32-bit board, because Chet, he did the review of the Ender 3 S1,
Yeah.
and he picked up on that. So basically,
That's
the Ender 2 Pro
surprising.
has a better board than the S1.
That
I was
is
surprised at that.
surprising.
I don't
To
know if
what
that's
end though. I mean, I'm assuming they just literally went and got whatever chip they could get, and in a chip shortage, they just
At
went,
the
we
time.
can get away with a 16, so I guess we do
Yeah.
that. But for a company like Creality that has so many like 427 boards or whatever they're on now, they must
that's
have
it.
so many of them just laying about.
They're rolling Ender 3 Pros out still.
That is surprising. I'm surprised that they did that.
So Ray's
Although
put
at this
an
point,
E3.
I'm not really sure why I'm surprised of anything that Creality
Well,
does.
yeah,
I'm
Ray's
still
put an
waiting on
E3
my-
V2 main board on his Ender 6, and he's got a pad 5 as well.
Right, it's the pad 5 now. So that is interesting. So
That is clever. That.
I've seen the pad 5 with the CM4. So I didn't know, and this was asked on a few groups. I didn't know whether or not you could actually use Clipper on a CM4, but clearly you can. Yeah, sorry, Twenty. So when I when I said the 8-bit boards couldn't handle it, I didn't mean the 8-bit boards couldn't handle Clipper. I meant that if you tried to print at 250 millimeters a second on an 8-bit board without Clipper, with just stock Marlin, the board couldn't process the code quick enough to actually print
lagging.
those speeds. So the whole point of Clipper originally was to offload the code to a Pi, so that it could then feed through in manageable chunks and not overload the buffer inside the 8-bit boards. So it wasn't that the 8-bit boards couldn't use Clipper. It's that Clipper originally came along to augment the 8-bit boards. But now that we have 32-bit boards in pretty much everything, it's surprising to me that someone would then take a step back with the sheer amount of Ender 3 boards, the Ender 3 B2 boards, or the 427 boards, or whatever they are now, the sheer amount of those boards that Creality have, I'm really surprised that they wanted to do that. Pad 5 with the MC4
module.
With the CM4 module, yeah. So I was surprised that the CM4 module. Although, am I surprised really? I suppose it's the same chip. It's the same silicon as the 3B, I think. So I suppose it's not a big surprise. It's just at the moment, you can't get hold of Raspberry Pis here. Like, I think I've got one left out of I've got one left out of all of the Pis that I had, because I've been using them on my machines. But I've actually got a friend who does he does Raspberry Pi server stacks for like NASes, and he was in like desperate need of them. So I let him have them, and then I found out that I've basically given him like $8,000 worth of Raspberry Pis apparently, because I gave him 4 4s, and that's apparently they're like £250 a pop now.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Clipper does use less of the main board. That's
Yes,
yeah.
it does, because the board isn't processing any code; it processes it line by line now.
Yeah. So it's
So I suppose really you could debate that. I suppose you could go down to a 16 or even an 8, and if you had a good Clipper configuration, it wouldn't really affect it. But even on the Voron still has a Pi, and it still runs Clipper. So the Voron still offloads an awful lot of work to the Pi.
CM4 use also for cars.
Oh, okay. So the CM4 probably goes in a lot of infotainment systems, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't
So
be
like
using it for any AI stuff. Like, they can't be using it for any of the autopilot stuff, I wouldn't have thought. But
the sat nav
I think-
and all that.
yeah, so maybe. What about Banana Pi? I've been following them on Facebook for a minute. So okay, so there are other Raspberry Pi alternatives, right? There's the Banana Pi, there's Mango Pi, there's Strawberry Pi, and there's a couple of others as well. Orange Pi, yeah. The problem is they all have slightly different they all have slightly different flavors of Linux. And I don't know, and I haven't tested it, but I don't know if you can actually run stock Clipper on a Banana Pi, because surely the source code would be different. It would be like, it's not like a Windows and Mac thing, but I don't know whether or not they're the same flavor of Linux.
Before FL Sun started releasing little bits about their V400, about 3 months ago, when I was in conversation with one of them, they were talking about using the orange boards because of the difficulty getting hold of the raspberries.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going down that route, using like a fruit pie or whatever for that.
But I just don't, because the problem is Clipper pulls from GitHub, which means it writes the source code directly. So yeah, so I do think it's a replica of the Pi. I think they've got the same power, but I do think they're different flavors of Linux. I don't think they're using the same. I don't think they're using the same code.
Because
I don't think you'd be able to pull Clipper down and it work. I mean, again, I'm happy to be corrected, but I don't think it would.
But like the Corality boxes are being used for Clipper as well.
Yeah.
They're useless as they are. People have been able to set them up as Clipper, and they run really well.
Right. Again, I'm not saying that you couldn't make Clipper work. I'm saying that the way you make Clipper work right now is you type in the GitHub and it downloads it and writes it straight to your Pi. But I'm sure you could make it work on Mango or on Banana Pi or something like that. But it wouldn't out of the box. So you would have to know what you're doing to be able to make it.
Unless maybe that's why they're selling it. Maybe that's why they're selling it with them, because like when they sell. I mean, again,
if they've decided to, if they've decided to make it, and they've made a custom. In the same sense, they will have written a custom screen firmware for that removable thing on the Super Racer. Like that's custom. They've designed that UI. It's not stock. So I don't see any reason why they couldn't get it working on a different Pi flavor. But yeah,
be interesting.
So it'll be interesting to see. But so we're almost done with this. I have to say, it's for zero calibration. This is straight off of the stock Cura Pro. I'll be very interested to see how this ends up, because it's looking very, very nice at the moment. It's not going very quick. You must SC orange. It is a night build developing. Oh, okay. So, I mean, again, there's no specific reason why this wouldn't be a good extruder, because it's a V6 hot end with a remote, with effectively a BMG dual drive extruder mounted remotely. So there's no reason why this wouldn't print well. It has got TFT and Y. All right, it's got A series drivers on Z, and I'm not exactly in love with that. But for all intents and purposes as well, it is effectively a Core XY. I'm curious as to why they would set it at 50 millimeters a second at stock, because if it's a Core XY and you're on a stable platform, this should be doing 120. Blocks looks like an Ultimaker U2. Absolutely. And I don't think, I'd be very surprised if they tried to shy away from that. It's very obviously similarly looking. And if you actually look at the R21, the R21 is pretty much an Ultimaker S5, just not enclosed. Like, it's got that big screen and all that sort of stuff. So Matt, are you doing another Starry Night? Is that what that is? I think there's Starry Night behind it, but are you doing another one? You're on mute.
No, not right now. I'm doing a different painting.
Oh, okay. Are we allowed to know the painting, or are we just going to have to guess line by line?
It's hold on a second.
It's wedding gift for his wife to be.
It's a wedding gift for
Claude
your wife.
Monet,
Got her a
sunflowers.
lithophane. You cheat.
Claude Monet sunflowers. It's called.
It's sunflowers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Claude Monet.
Good morning, good evening. Exploring with Matt. How are you? But yeah, you are right. It does look almost identical to an Ultimaker. And again, I absolutely think that is completely. I think that's completely deliberate. I think they've done that on purpose. I think that Ultimaker is a brand. I honestly wish that more companies would emulate an Ultimaker than they would emulate Ender 3s. Because if we had more challenges in the Ultimaker space, I would challenge we would drive 3D printing forwards in a slightly more constructive direction than when we have many Ender 3 clones. Because when you get like 6 Ender clones down the line, you end up with a G-Tech, and no one wants that.
Yeah, because non-stick's got an Ender 6 as well.
Okay, James, we're going to make together a live stream about what's best to do for it. Absolutely, 20. More than happy to. Have you looked at the motherboard? Yes. So the motherboard in this is so that's Teddy saying that. So the motherboard in this is an MKS Gen 1.4. So it's not a bad board by any stretch. It's fine. It's not proprietary. It's at least open source. If you wanted to do something to it, you would be able to. It's fine. It's not amazing. It's not custom, but it does the job. I would be interested to see whether or not on their new R21, if they stuck with generic boards, or if they decided to. It's probably better that Ultimaker as it's a 175 filament. I'll be honest, it's not ideal that Ultimaker is 285. It's one of the major drawbacks of it as a brand. That being said, once again, I'm not their target market. I'm not the person they're trying to sell an Ultimaker to. I haven't got £3,000 that's just laying about not doing anything. And in fact, I think the S5 is even more than that.
There you go, nice little koi fish.
Is it articulated? Does it move?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just come off. It's not bad.
Teddy's just asking, gives you the possibility, how's the hot end? So the hot end is a V6, Teddy, and it's got if I move this over here, it's got a remotely mounted BMG clone on the side. Frankly, for the money, I would have liked to have seen a genuine BMG. Kind of the reason you're supposed to go with brands like this is that you get sort of genuine parts, but it is what it is. I probably am though, and I didn't buy one. Yeah, so for those who aren't aware, James runs a very successful, I might add, print farm where he has a very large number of brochures, and it means that he's got a medically fascinating sized junk. That's doctors have told him that it's a problem. It's obviously a massive issue for him. He's basically housebound. But as a result, James also has a couple of Raise 3Ds. The Raises are, I mean, they're astonishingly good machines. But again, they're in a different bracket. I have here in the hospital, I can do my printers then with an Ultimate. Oh, all right. I'm assuming you mean you have. Has that knocked it off the bed again? No. Okay. I'm assuming you mean that you can do more with the Ultimaker. You can do more with your printers than you can with an Ultimaker. So that's probably true, to be fair.
But again, you're paying
an Ultimaker is for a very an Ultimaker is for me. It's for a very specific person, right? It's for somebody who. Oh, Matt, could you eat that directly into the microphone, please? That'd be great.
Sorry. I just had my food over.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's good.
Is your blood
Going to
sugar
get a
dropping?
bunch of ASMR people on here soon, just trying to listen to Matt eating directly into his microphone. So
didn't eat
the
all day.
Ultimaker is for a very specific person, right? You're buying into an ecosystem. So you're buying into a printer that basically sets itself up. You're buying into a printer that uses 285 filament, but it's supposed to be a print. If you have a print farm, it's supposed to be a print farm of Ultimakers. So the fact that it's 285 wouldn't be an issue for you because that's all you'd have. It's meant to be easy to use. It's meant to be easy to maintain. You can drop out the print cores and replace them if they go bad. It's just a very expensive machine and an expensive ecosystem to be a part of.
Well, it's like FlashForge, isn't it? They've got Voxel Lab, or Voxy Lab.
Exactly.
So FlashForge is the more expensive, and the Voxel Lab is the cheaper. But it appeals then to more people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Prints ABS very well. I'd love to see ABS printing on the blocks. James wants you to do ABS on your blocks.
Does he? Well, James can get his own channel. No, we will give it a go.
It wouldn't fit on the screen.
So U2 and S3, they're not my favourite. I own both, and it's noisy, and the print cores are very expensive. Yeah, I can agree with that. You can buy a filament organizer and filtration with the S560 for 10k. Cross the line. I'll tell you what, for 10 grand, I'll sit and organize your filament for you. Christ. Right, I'm going to unplug this camera for a moment so that I can get past it because it's in my way. And then I will show you.
£10,000. Jesus Christ.
There we go. Right, so this, if we get this to focus.
Nice.
There we go. So, bear in mind, this is a stock Cura profile. That,
not bad at all,
on the flats there, come on.
That's pretty good.
Is pretty nice. Look at that. So this is the first layer. Again, very consistent. I mean, it's glass. So, to be fair, that's the kind of finish I would expect to get from glass. Possibly a little bit more squash that's needed on that, which explains why I needed to put the 3D lack on it, because it's possible my Z could go down sort of a 0.1 or maybe a 0.2, so that it really fills in those lines. But overall, it's a very consistent extrusion. There's no ghosting on X or Y. The Z is very, very clean. No over extrusion, no under extrusion. That is pretty bang on. That's at 100% flow. I would debate that with that quality of calibration cube, I would debate this has already had its E-steps actually set properly. Because that is too clean for you to be for that to be something that you'd have to go and you wouldn't be able to calibrate your E-steps any differently than that. And it's currently set at 100% flow rate in the slicer. So I would be really surprised if that turned out if they hadn't already done the E-steps on that. But that is a really consistent first layer. It's nice. €799, I would expect it to be nice. And it does come back to, what do you want, really, down to the smallest ask you can possibly come up with. What I want from my 3D printer is for it to work. That's what I want, really. It's great that I can fast speeds. It's all any of us really want. It's all, whenever we do these custom builds and we're building rat rigs or Vorons or whatever, really what you want is for your printer to work at the end, for it to be reliable, for you to click a button and it to do a thing, and then it to do that thing over and over and over again. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why Prussias are so popular. It's because you click the button and it does the thing that you told it to do, and it does it objectively well.
So James just sent me the link, for the S5.
Yep.
And they do training courses.
Do they? That's decent.
So an FDM, FF, 3D printing training one day is £425.
Oh, that's quite unpleasant. How much difference is there in that printer and the Ultimaker? So, I'm going to start out by saying I've only ever seen an Ultimaker. I've not used one. So I haven't printed with an Ultimaker. We haven't reviewed one on this channel, unsurprisingly. I mean, look at us. Who would have us an Ultimaker? Ultimaker are actually sponsored by Huel, so that's why we won't touch them. I mean, price difference wise, if you were looking for I know the Ultimaker 3 is like $3,000 still, and that's if you can find them anywhere. The S5 is like $6,000 or $7,000. Like it's an obscenely expensive machine.
The S5 is £9,170 without VAT. Without VAT.
Without that.
Yeah, it's over 11,000.
So I mean, could you really ask for that much better than this calibration cube? Could you ask for £9,000 worth better than this calibration cube? No. I challenge the answer is no. That's think to make the Sermon Big Tree Tech and Pi. Oh, what the D? Is it the Sermon D1?
The D1, yeah. Have you got the original one, right? Because again, they've just released the newer models, haven't they? Made them smaller again.
Obviously, because that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, smaller printers.
What everyone's been asking for: smaller machines, please. You really want a resin printer? So okay, so it's not a resin printer, right? €799. You probably could go out and buy a Mighty 4K or a Mighty 8K for that. Actually, now I think the Mighty 8K is like, isn't it like $800?
$800 with $200 off if you pay a £50 deposit.
Yeah, but I want to be so clear that there is a massive difference between FDM and resin. There is still a significant materials cost difference between the two. Resin printing is roughly twice the price of printing something in FDM.
Yeah.
And I mean, so if you take, for example, behind Mike, he's got his Batman Insanity model. It is very large.
It weighs 16 kilos.
It weighs 16 kilos. Now, even if he carried that on at 16 kilos, if he'd have done that in
that's not including all the supports I threw away.
Yeah. So if you did that whole thing in resin, you'd be looking at about £500. Then you've got to throw in paints and everything else.
And you've got to buy a printer big enough to do it.
And you've got to buy a resin printer big enough to do those parts, which you can't. So what you'll see in the coming months as we start to we've got a few resin printers in the works, right? We've got a few things that we're trying to acquire to help make our models a bit better. You will start to see that our characters, especially heads, hands, torsos, legs, and that kind of stuff, and weapons and things, are gonna more often than not be in resin. And then all of our bases are going to be in FDM. What that should give us the ability to do as we get larger resin machines is keep our quality, or actually get our quality of our models really high. But as we've seen, most people's bases are afterthoughts anyway. There's big enough resin ones. No, absolutely not.
This model I'm doing now, this Loki and Sylvie, is the first one I've done where the base is extremely intricate.
Yeah.
It's first base I've ever done that's really intricate.
If you take Osriel, right? Osriel is a meter tall, and what he is standing on that's his base. Even if you do the double of this, there's another that's a big Nightwing. And that one, there's just even more stairs that are all in, and then he's sitting there. So Osriel, there are technically big enough resin printers, but we're getting a 400 by 400 rat rig V-Core 3, which we will be building on the channel. There isn't a domestic level, affordable, even remotely affordable resin printer that that could print at the same size that a 400 by 400 rack rig V-core could do. There aren't any. And even if there was, what a waste it would be to print that base in resin. What a waste. Who prints probably 12 to 15 kilos of resin to make 6 steps?
Someone who really likes stairs.
What would be the purpose of it?
Well, the resin width it's like you say, it's for the more intricate parts. Like you say, like the weapons.
Absolutely.
Like if you was doing like an arrow for, I don't know, Robin Hood, for example.
Yeah.
A resin printer would be perfect for that. Because you get that feather-like look, wouldn't you, at the end of the bow?
Well,
and
I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but these swords that Sylvie's got, like, they're thin, but there's like hieroglyphics or something all along the edge of the blade, which would never ever come out on FDM.
No.
That blade's 3 mil thick.
Yeah. But the reality is,
and the glyphs are like 1 mil by 1 mil.
Yeah, but the reality is, if you had to do that base for that model in resin, apart from the fact that Mike's only got a 6-inch resin printer at the moment, if he had to do that base in resin, then that whole model would cost about £250. So the Mega and the Peopoly are pretty big at about 400 cubed. Well, they're not cubed because there are no cubed resin printers for a start. So they always have an aspect ratio. So they're always like 310 by 250 by 400. But there aren't any square resin printers.
There's a Kuma here still, Matt. The Corality ones, the Corality Plus and the Pro, they're quite squared.
Well, they can't be though, surely, if they're screens.
I'll tell you this. I'll get you the sizes now. They are quite squared.
I mean, I suppose they could just be custom screens, but surely the resolutions they have to output would have to be custom in that instance.
Well, we'd have to be honest. Corality didn't make it, did they?
Well, no, obviously, yeah.
So the Plus is.
So there you go. There's a perfect example, right? So the Mega 8K, 330, brilliant. 185, poo. 400, great. So providing that you've got something that's either tall or that you can pitch at an angle, that's fine. But if you have something that's also deep, I mean, don't get me wrong, on the Mega 8K, you can do a full-size helmet. Do you know what I mean? Like it's large. I'm not debating that at all. But the difference is Mike has done 4 helmets that have failed, and then this one.
Yeah.
And doing all of those in FDM would still be cheaper than doing one of those in resin.
Yeah. So the Harlot 1 Plus is 172 by 102 by 160.
Yeah, so I mean it's getting there, but it's still nearly double on the Y than it is on the Z. It is on the X, sorry.
And the Pro is a little bit smaller than that. But yeah, it's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Peopoly Phenom is 345 by 194 by.
Oh God!
Almost double on the about 80%.
Was that one we were talking about?
400 on the Z. And it's great that you've got that big Z, but a 345 by 194 by 400 isn't even close to the build volume of a 400 by 400 by 400 V-core.
I like my resin printers.
It's the cost, though,
and again, I want to be so clear. I love resin printers as well, right? There's a little bit more cleanup, but the detail on them is phenomenal. It's night and day. And for doing detailed parts, there really isn't anything like it. But there's absolutely still a case for keeping FDM in your workflow. There's absolutely no reason at this point to throw FDM out and say, no, resin is the future. Well, this is all I want to do.
Well, the base for this Loki and Sylvie is made up of about 25 parts.
Yeah.
Like, the price to print just this base would be astronomical.
Yep.
Whereas it's probably about a kilo 1.5 maybe with supports, maybe 1.5 kilos to print the whole thing.
Yeah. Twenty's just asking how's my Terminator. So I want to be so clear for those who have watched the video. I hate my Terminator, so I don't care.
Just behind that curtain on the right hand side.
Just behind that curtain, and I genuinely hope that he's fallen over at some point, and I haven't ever got to worry about him ever again. I can just sweep him out the door. That's like a child who's gone vegan. You can just forget about them. They're dead to you. You don't need them anymore. They've made their choices. The Terminator decided that he wanted to be crap, and I have no interest in his welfare moving forwards. So the geezer who was buying him will be getting him very soon. I need to actually print off I still need to print off the pulse rifle. Once I've done the pulse rifle, that will go, and I never want to see it ever again. I have absolutely no interest in it being in my life anymore. I've hated doing it from start to finish. I've hated doing that as a commission, and me and Mike have talked it through. I will never again do a commission for anybody. I don't mind, and a very ambiguous statement, but I don't mind if people wish to buy the things that we have done. If we do a model and someone goes, "Oh, that's amazing, I'd love to buy that," I'll happily have a conversation with them about it. But I will never again do a commission job ever. I have hated it from start to finish. It does not look the way I want it to, and I'm very angry about it. I'm angry at myself. I'm more angry at that, and I'm really angry at Mike.
It does make it more difficult, though, doesn't it? It does make it harder because, like, you overthink everything.
Yeah.
So you
because there's plenty of things where I go, that's fine. It's fine for me. It doesn't matter. But this is a case that this actually happened to me when I was trying to do. I was doing an Aragorn bust from Lord of the Rings, and I'd finished painting it. I'd finished doing his face. I really put a lot of effort into his face, and I noticed that behind one of the ears, I'd missed the spot on his flesh tone. I was like, bugger. So I thought, I know, it'll be fine. I'll just touch it up. And that touch up turned into a full repainting of his face, and I hate his face now. Because I couldn't just leave that. I couldn't leave that one bit alone.
Yeah.
And I ended up sort of starting there, and then his neck didn't look right, so I repainted his neck, and then his head didn't match, so I painted the whole thing, and it just
So like some of the stuff I'll paint, I'll look at it and I'll think, yeah, I'm happy with that, and then I'll think, I could have done that on that. I could have done that on that, and I could have done that on that. For me, it's fine, but if I was selling that, I would then have to go back and redo that. Like if I was printing that for someone who was buying it, I would have to then go back and redo all them parts.
Yeah.
Thinking I could have highlighted that like this instead of the way I did it. Hindsight's a lovely thing, but when someone's paying you to do it, you've then got to go back and redo that.
Yeah. Dale's Logos is saying, would you reprint another one? And knowing what you would change. I've printed a lot of things afterwards. I would say I'd print them knowing.
Yeah, you change your mind and not print it.
Yeah, I'd just change my mind. And when the geezer said I want a full-size Terminator, I'd say that's cool, mate. I want to end world hunger, and I think child slavery is a bad idea. But we're all in this together, and I guess we're just gonna have to learn to live with it. You're gonna have to live without a Terminator, and I'm gonna have to live with the fact there's still child slaves all over the gap. Like it's just yeah. For me, I would have just, if I'd have known what I knew now, I would have just said no. I'd have just been like, no, thank you. I won't be taking part in that. Thank you very much. It's not at all. I certainly wouldn't do another Terminator because that is now a thing that I hate, and it would drive me mental. There's certainly a lot of things that I would do very differently to the way that I did. For a start, I now know about Replaflow, and that would have made my finishing life infinitely easier. I would have assembled it in parts, and then I would have been able to have finished it much nicer. I'd have been able to get a much higher quality.
With Replaflow, with that, because it is quite expensive, isn't it? With, like we've just been talking about doing resin in models.
Yeah, so I can honestly say I would bet you that litre would do the whole thing.
Yes, so it's not that bad then, really.
I reckon that 1 litre would have done that whole thing. And I actually think I could have done more than one coat. Like I could have done more than one coat of it. I would have said. I also made the very bold decision that I was going to use 2 separate models and blend them together. So I bought one off of Colts 3D, and then I blended that with the one made by Hex 3D. And there were parts of Hex's that I really liked, and there were parts of the Colts 3D one that I really liked. And then when I put them together, it turns out that I'm a moron and you can't do that. You can't just take 2 models designed by 2 separate people and then get angry when they don't fit together. Like,
he had about 23 feet, didn't he?
Yeah, his feet were absolutely massive. Like his feet were this big because it had like a weird like heel thing that pitched out. Anyway, regardless, I would not print it again. I do know where I went wrong, but I definitely don't have the moral fortitude to go back and correct any of that. Like it's just, yeah, it's been an intensely unpleasant experience having to do that thing. But I don't think the issue I have really is that it's Terminator. I don't think it's that model. I don't even think it's that it's life size. It's that I am making something for the first time for somebody else, and
you just hate doing it.
Yeah, and that Terminator does not meet the standard that I think it should meet to be sold to a person. That's what it comes down to.
I've seen the Terminator when I came around yours.
Yeah, and it's not changed that much from when you came round, and that was a while ago.
Been cut in half.
Yeah, it's just been cut in half now because because the wind shattered one of the legs. It's the same actually as this Warhammer. If I was to do another one, I know what I would do differently, which is that I would do all of the panels in resin, which would fit on a normal resin printer, and I would paint all of the panels at the same time so that they were actually even close to the same color. Because currently they are not. They're not even in the same. Some of them aren't even in the same color wheel. Like they're just not the same. So I would do that differently. But would I ever reprint that Warhammer Titan? Absolutely not. I had to assemble that with no instructions, and I don't know what one's supposed to look like. So I'm not even sure if this is right. Maybe he's meant to have an extra leg. I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure that underneath this piece there's some junk that you're supposed to print and put on there, but I didn't, and I don't know if that's what that's supposed to look like. This isn't a color scheme this red and blue isn't a color scheme that exists in Warhammer. So that isn't right straight off the bat. There's parts of this that really didn't print very well. Exactly the same happened with that large. I don't even know if many people have seen it. It was a really big lion, and the name of the lion.
It's never been on a video. It's never been on a video.
I don't think it's ever been on a video. It's broken now, so I can't really do it. But it's called Anjani Planestalker. And he's a big lion, and he's got like big pauldrons on and a big cape and things like that. And
it was genuinely huge.
It was genuinely. It was big. It was over a meter tall. It was about 1.3, 1.4 meters tall. It's the first big thing that I ever printed, and certainly the first big thing that I ever painted. And I put it up on Facebook because I was so happy. I was like, "Look how big this is! This is so cool!" And then someone went, "That's the wrong color." And I said, "What? I mean, he's lion coloured. He's a lion." So, yeah. And Johnny Plains.
Yeah,
like he's an albino. That's the whole point. He's a white lion. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they went, "Right, well, that's just a weird lion who's wearing people clothes. Like it's not the lion that it's supposed to be." So stuff like that really annoyed me because I would never be able to sell that model now because they won't just go, "That's the wrong color."
And plus, someone smashed it to pieces.
Yeah, and someone broke it. Yeah.
Somebody broke it. Who did it?
I'm not going to out them on YouTube to 13 people.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't Mike, and it wasn't me, and it was Carl.
It was Carl. Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't
I
Carl.
thought so too.
Well, me and James have both broke models of each other's.
It could have been you, Matt.
Broke your Captain America, our Terminator.
I
didn't break your Terminator. Yes, your Terminator is broken, and I was there. That's not the same.
So before you got there, we were looking at it. We had all the eye lighting up and everything, and it was working. Turned it off.
Yeah.
James picked it up. Went, "Oh, is it done?" And immediately, as soon as he touched it, the eye no longer worked.
So
And
what
the way
you're
it's
saying
done,
is
you can't.
you badly made a Terminator head, and
No.
then it's my fault. What's that
I
about?
turned it on and off loads of times. Arif turned it on loads of times. You touched it once, and it never worked again.
Right, and then you picked up my Captain America and you just smashed it.
No, it just fell apart. So I picked it up. I picked it up, and it just all crumbled. That was big as well, the Captain America.
That was
That's what
large.
happened when
That's
you
a
use
lot of
super
work.
glue.
He had really weird eyes, though.
The other one with the flag that he really hated.
Oh,
Yeah, that
God, that thing.
exploded.
I hated doing that flag. That flag was the worst thing I've ever painted.
You're going to be up all night, James, with these going through your head and not being able to sleep.
Oh, yeah,
or
all the time.
hatred.
It's the only reason I keep most of my models in my office. Is so that every time I feel like I've achieved something at work, I can look around and go, "Oh no, you are still a piece of crap." Because I can look at all the flaws of everything around me. Like I've got that horrible tooth fairy that sits above my desk, and it literally stares at me, going, "I'm not supposed to be purple." And I go, I know I'm not supposed to be purple. And he sort of looks at me and goes, "I'm meant to be grey." I go, "I know you're meant to be grey." He goes, "Why am I purple then?" Because I'm not meant to be purple, am I? If you go and watch the film, they're not purple. So that's the only reason all my models sit in my office. It's a constant reminder that I am, in general, a failure. And they all stare at me judgingly. I'm not meant to look like this. Why are my eyes so large? Why don't I have eyebrows? Why haven't you painted the underside of my hands? Leather doesn't look like this. It's all of them mocking me as I try to sleep.
I done a bust about 2 years ago, and I kept looking at it, and I mean, for months I was looking at it. I was like, something's not right with that. Something's not right with that face. I can't put my finger on it, but something's not right with it. And after about 4 months, I realised I hadn't put the eyebrows on.
Oh, God. Brilliant. Right, guys and dolls, with that, we will end that here. So you've seen it here. This prints nicely. We will do a review on it, and we'll do some follow-ups. We'll even try some ABS on it, and we'll see how it does. It's a nice little printer. The price is not great. I mean, there's a reality that, you could get that quality out of a Focus, out of an Artillery Hornet. You could get it out of probably most of the FL Suns, to be honest. It's that quality is not unique to this machine. But what I will say is that it's literally out of the box, went through the leveling process, and now it's printing. I can't argue with the setup process. I'm not a massive fan of a couple of A series drivers on Z and E, but it works, and it works really well. You guys watched how quickly I managed to level the bed. It actually levels the bed rather than creating a mesh. I really like that. It's a V6 hot end in there, so it's not like it's sort of trying to force filament through a really crappy tool head or anything like that. It's very nice, and if you can pick one up for a little bit cheaper than they are on the website, I absolutely guarantee you'll have some great times printing with it. Maybe not 800 euros worth of fun, but who knows? Maybe you've got a lot of money and you don't really care about that sort of stuff. So with that, thanks very much for joining us, guys and dolls. We've got loads coming up. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We will see you again very soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.